us honor the United States of America. Out of respect for our country, we ask that you please remove your hats. Veterans, please salute. You're invited to join Kane Kalas, son of the late, great Phillies Hall of Fame broadcaster Harry Kalas, as Kane sings our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Well, what's up, folks? Now, I will tell you, that's the way to start the show tonight. It is episode 98, and I will tell you this much. I am beyond excited this evening, not only to have one of these great gentlemen that has lived and reside basically in Philly just about all of his life, and then you have the other gentleman that is the son of the late, great Harry Kalas, which we all love dearly to this day, and we will always love Harry. Kane Kalas, which you just heard him sing the national anthem. So not a better way to start off the show than with Kane Kalas singing the national anthem. I have Ruben standing in the green room along with Kane Kalas. Dylan, the Godfather, we are excited to have these gentlemen on tonight. And if you guys want to take that memory long road trip back to 2008, and we'll go even back further than that, because in order to get 2008, well, it had to start earlier. So we know that Pat Gillick was the GM at the time. Ruben was making his move as far as becoming the assistant GM. So he was able to celebrate and put together, along with Pat, that 2008 World Series team. And then came 2009, become the National League Championship GM. We came close, but it's okay. We never forget the people who've helped Philly fans and Philadelphians all the years of going through the woes and then going through the highs. And we hope that it's soon to be future Phillies team to get back up there. But we are nonetheless excited to have both Ruben and Kane on. Right on the other side here, it is episode 98. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in from all over the states, overseas, and down in Brazil. We always appreciate and value everything you guys do for us. So I'm Angel. Let's get the show going. This is Broad Street South. Now, I already see the comments coming in, so just hold on for the comments. I see you guys at the moment here. We'll introduce, as we always do every single week, it is the Godfather, Mike Fuji. Wait a minute. You didn't throw your arms up in the air like you just don't care. What happened there?
Nothing. How you doing, Angel?
Good.
Talk some baseball. Ruben Amaro Jr., Kane Kalas. Let's have a great show. Let's get right into it.
Yes, sir. And we can't forget also our local Tampa correspondent who's become a huge Phillies fan. And by the way, has celebrated, as we just learned recently, his 200th episode on his podcast, starting at the age of 11. Of course, I'm kidding. Started about the age of 14. Dylan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, guys. It is a great day. We got Ruben Amaro Jr. and Kane Kalas. I mean, those two guys, it's going to be a fun show. I can't wait. Let's get right into this.
It's going to be tons and tons of fun. I'm going to bring back my screen here so everyone can see just like I do here. If you guys do not follow these two gentlemen, well, I'm going to show you how you can end up doing it here. As you can see right there on your screen, and I'll even blow it up just a little bit more so you guys can end up seeing here. Ruben Amaro Jr. under Raj, right, small r. Then you got your hyphen or underscore 20. So you guys can follow him just like we do here on the show. The same way with Kane. If you guys, real simple, Kane Kalas. Follow both of these guys just like every Phillies fan does out there, whether you are here, whether you're overseas, no matter where you are. Make sure you give these two guys a follow. And with that being said, I want to bring both gentlemen on here at the same time. First of all, both gentlemen, Ruben, Kane, thank you guys so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
Angel, Mike, and Dylan, it's great to be with you guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
So cool to be here with my man Kane as well.
Yeah, I actually just saw Ruben a couple weeks back at a Darren Dalton Foundation event.
That's right. That's right.
So earlier, Ruben, I was trying to save it as a surprise because I reached out to Kane earlier this week, actually, and we're trying to get together here for an episode. And then you coming on, then I reached out back up to Kane and I said, if you don't mind, both of them have him on. So I wanted to try and surprise you, but at the same time, want to make sure that Kane knew as well. So kind of like a surprise here that you guys both are. But thank you guys again for both being on here on the show. We'll get to you guys here in the comments in a second. But Ruben, I will say, thank you again so much for what you did, not only for the city of Philadelphia, I mean, bringing a championship back to the city since 1980. And we're going to go back to your childhood. So I'm just going to start off here with the thank you at the moment. But thank you so much for what you did, because it's been a long time. And it was a long time, the last time we saw a championship, and that sea of red down Broad Street, if just looking at it, just like the sea of green that we saw for the Eagles championship, it was just so well-deserved. And at a time when the city needed just that lifting spirit for everyone to just enjoy, we can't thank you enough for what you did for his organization.
Well, I can tell you, Angel, it obviously was a full team effort. Pat Gillick is a Hall of Famer, and there's a reason why. And he kind of put the finishing touches on a lot of the work that Ed Wade and other guys like Mike Arbuckle and so many others that had such a big part in bringing that championship to Philadelphia. But I sure was proud to be able to be working my way down that float, onto that float through Broad Street. It was a spectacular moment for me and something that the fans really deserved. It was real fun.
Well, I will say, and now as I shared the story, so for a lot of folks that weren't able to at least catch up with what we were saying here off air. So I was fortunate, as Ruben was, when Ruben in 1980, when his dad was on the team and played a position here or had a position with the Phillies, Ruben was able to be the bat boy at the time. So he got to celebrate like the rest of us here, the first championship. So again, father-son moment. 1980, I was fortunate to be with my dad to celebrate. And the one thing that I will say, so, and Ruben and Kane, for both of you guys here, and I don't think I've ever shared with the guys as well. So my dad and I, we're at the game, we get to celebrate. And like everyone else, we make the trip all the way up to City Hall. Mind you, we parked the car at the vet at the time. So we park it. We go celebrating with everybody, and this is before the L ran as long as it does today, and even the buses. So we make the hike and the trip all the way up to City Hall, and my dad looks at me and goes, okay, so how are we getting back to the car? I'm like, good question. So we end up walking back. But we celebrated that night, and it was nostalgic because then in 2008, at the time with my stepson, he was 10 years old, same age that I was my dad, and basically ended up doing the same thing. So that's why I say you have no idea how much memories it brought back to me. Good memories, and you always want to have that. And that stays with you forever, just like the Eagles championship. So again, thank you so much for what you did for us.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a father-son theme here. There's no question about it. And things seem to come full circle. But what a joy it was for me as a kid, 15, 16-year-old kid, enjoying that first championship, and then getting an opportunity to be part of the Phillies organization and be kind of an important part of the next championship. It's pretty spectacular. I know that Kane probably has the same sort of feeling, having kind of gone through that himself.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And just 2008 was so electric. Just my dad had been waiting for so many years for that moment to happen. And growing up with him, watching him just come home after every single game. I could tell, the look on his face just when he came home, even if I missed the game for whatever reason, whether the Phillies had won or lost, and then it was an incredible year.
That it was. And I will tell you this much, Kane, and Fuji, I'm going to turn over here to you in a second. But even though I moved down here to Tampa, right, the one person that comes with me down here to Tampa, still your dad. Even if it's
I
just,
love it.
even if it's just that figure that we know that we see at Citizens Bank Park. And the reason also why I played your national anthem there. So when I moved here, it was April of 2018. I was fortunate and waited until 2017 when Eagles won. And I'll tell you guys a quick story how I ended up down here. But that you were over at your dad's statue is over by section 140. And that day in particular, I had no idea that you were ending up singing the national anthem. I heard that you were, and so I wanted to see you live in action. And from where you were to where the camera was positioned, I was right there. And in my head, I thought, one day if I get to speak to Kane, I would love to ask him about his dad, his upbringing, how it was. And again, you think about things like this and you never know what comes to fruition. And here you are with us tonight. And it's the same way with Ruben. You think about, as a fan, everybody knows it. Philadelphia fans, period, are tough. And we go through it and there's just times we're like, oh, why did this have to happen the way it did? But it makes you stronger. Even as a person, it makes you stronger. So I know they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I believe that if you make it in Philadelphia, you can definitely make it anywhere because you have to have super thick skin. And before I turn over to Fuji here, the reason why I ended up down here in Tampa, and I've told my coworkers this story, my dad retired. It's been over, I think, 16 years at this point now. And when he came down to Florida, his two choices were either Florida or Hawaii. So my sister and I said, well, Dad, if you move to Hawaii, the tough part's going to be, we have the airfare, you're 6 hours away. It's going to be kind of tough if you get sick and stuff. So I think Florida would be better. So my dad moves to Florida. First year he's down here, calls me up, says, Angel, what do you think about moving down here to Florida? I said, Dad, no, you know what? I love my sports teams. I want to stay home. I have a great job. Call me next year. So he does the same thing. He does this for about good 2 to 3 years. Finally, the third year, I said, I tell you what, Dad, the year the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I will move to Tampa, Florida. And it's exactly what I did.
Good timing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ruben, just to jump in a little bit, you were on 4 World Series teams too. As a bat boy, 80, 83, part of the 93 team in 2008 and 2009. So technically 5. My mistake. What was it like being with a bat boy with Mike Schmidt, Pete Rose, playing with the Macho Row guys, and then having Jimmy, Ryan, Chase, Cole, Roy Halladay, and so on?
I mean, when you think about it, I've been so fortunate to be around like Philadelphia sports legends my whole life. To be able to kneel next to Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt and Larry Boa and Dallas Green, all those people that meant so much to the Phillies organization over the years, to be able to work with Paul Owens and Dallas, and my dad.
Right.
And then, be able to play with guys like Darren Dalton and John Kruk and Lenny Dykstra and my good friend Dave Hollins, et cetera, et cetera. Just pretty amazing. And then obviously having like 3 of the best players in the history of their positions in Ryan, Jimmy, and Chase. I've been really lucky. People don't get a chance to live this life, and also to be around and to be in hotel rooms and travel with guys like Harry Kalas and Whitey Ashburn. I mean, if you think about it, I've been with and worked with some of the greatest legends of Phillies history, and I couldn't be more grateful. I've learned a lot from a lot of people, including Kane's dad. Learned how to be a professional. Learn how to do and think about that all the time as a broadcaster as well. I mean, now that I'm doing the broadcast, Can't tell you, Fuj, how fortunate I am to have been around these people in one way, shape, or another, and it's truly an honor to have been around them, because they are, they've been integral parts of the history of our franchise.
As far as Kane, I had the fortunate chance to meet your dad. He came to my elementary school in 3rd grade. I still have his autograph from this day. And what a very down-to-earth gentleman. Would talk to you. I was there at your dad's ceremony that the Phillies had, because I was a game day employee for 16 years. And, it was a pleasure meeting you and, just being there for your dad's ceremony.
Yeah, that was a beautiful ceremony that the Phillies put on, and I think a lot of Philadelphia fans, have a story of having met my father, or gotten an autograph from him, or him doing somebody's voicemail for them. I mean, he was so generous with his time to the fans. It was a true story. When I used to go to the game, my dad, first of all, he'd show up early, right? But so that was part of it. But my dad would say, "Son, you want to come with me?" And I'd be like, "Well, by the time the game finishes and Dad signs every autograph and we get home, he'd be there at the end of the game, signing every last person's autograph. I'd already be home for an hour by the time he got home." So, that's just the way he was. So generous with his time. He loved the Philadelphia fans, and
especially
I gotta
singing
tell you, Harry and my dad had a lot in common then, because my dad did the same thing everywhere he went as well. Said, "Son, these are the people that pay your salaries. You got to take care of these people. They're here for a reason."
You're absolutely right.
A lot of late nights waiting around for autographs to be signed.
Yeah, and I don't think my dad ever really truly understood the effect he had on the community. I remember the story. I was at a hibachi restaurant in Springfield, and I was there with my dad. And, I could see, I always notice when people are whispering to each other, and they're, "That's Harry Kalas," and he never had any idea. And the hibachi chef finished. And my dad, I'm young and maybe a little bit embarrassed by the attention. My dad stands up and starts to clap for this hibachi chef. He gives him a standing, and I see everybody around the room pointing like, "Oh, Harry's standing up." And now all of a sudden the whole restaurant, right, not just our table, all the tables around the restaurant are standing up, giving this guy, that was the best ovation this guy's ever gotten.
That's always it's amazing. It's the stories. I think there's so many stories behind the mic when you don't see everyone, in their element. It's completely different. And I'm pretty sure between both you guys, between Harry and Ruben, it's tough, because you want to be one with the fan base. And then there could have been days, and Ruben, I'm pretty sure you went through it, but as a GM, it's kind of tough when things don't go the direction you want to go. Sometimes you got to put on that face, like, I don't want to, and I'm just saying this hypothetically, so I don't want any fans to think that this is coming from Ruben. But there's times, I'm pretty sure, as GMs and managers, and different people in higher positions, where it's just, I don't want to not be rude, not talk to the fans right now, because I'm kind of in the moment, but I'm going to go do it anyways. Only because they're there, they're paying the price, or paying the tickets, or coming to see the product that's out there on the field. But no matter what, it just seems, between both you, Kane, your dad, Harry, and Ruben, yourself, you always took the time, no matter, even if it was a quick wave, as you're walking by, whatever it was you were doing, you were always in the light to let the fans know that, listen, I see you, and we're happy that we've done what we've done with the organization. And I also feel the impact from you guys, feeling the wrath that we had to feel after that 2009 season. But
I have to tell you that I guess that you learned that from your father, right? You learn from this is all learned behavior, and just having an understanding of what the fans are about. Hey, I was probably as upset about some of our failures as the fans were, if not more so. So, I mean, I worked for the Phillies, but I was always a fan of the Phillies, and I always have been and always will be. I'll always bleed Phillies red, and so I understand, when there's frustration. I get it, because I was every bit as frustrated as anyone else. But just having watched my dad handle some of the ups and downs of the business, because it can be difficult at times, I think that helped. It wasn't perfect all the time, but I hope that I gave the people the respect that they deserved when when addressing us or talking with us. And I'll never be nearly as classy as my dad was, but it was also something that you try to at least take with you some of the things that you learned from your dad. And I'm sure Kane watched that happen with his father as well.
Yeah, it's not like I said, it's tough because you do have your family. You want to make sure that as you represent you and your family, like I said, it can go both ways. It can go really well or it can go really bad. The good thing is that we have a lot of great memories again from both gentlemen. And for that, like I said, there's a lot of thank yous that can go across the board because you guys did your best that you possibly could. And Kane, the same way with you coming out, to Citizens Bank Park I will tell you that you have more guts than I do as far as to be standing in front of, thousands of people and be able to sing the national anthem. Because the minute I do it, I know there'd be that frog in my throat and it would be over. So, it's just the respect I think that what the fans have from the city and everywhere for that matter, to see what was put together with the Phillies and how it's been and how it continues to grow. I mean, we're not by any means, the Phillies are not where they want to be, but they're finally making those steps forward to where they want to be. Unfortunately, with the lockout here, it's kind of hold it back a little bit, but it's okay because we'll see what the product is. But again, I want to kind of revert backwards here, Ruben, with you and starting back with your childhood as we make our way back towards the 2008 season. As a child, for you, what was it, other than like most of us usually say, like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a police officer, or maybe a fireman. As a child, what was the first thing that came to mind to you that you wanted to be?
It's funny. Way back when, I had this like affinity to animals, so a veterinarian was like the thing that I wanted to be. And then right there after that, when I started playing sports, soccer was really my thing. And I actually thought that that I was going to make that a career. I probably was as an adolescent and as a youth, I was probably a better soccer player naturally than I was a baseball player. And I think the switch really came with baseball was when I got an opportunity, as we spoke about before, just being around, those great players in the late '70s and early '80s as a bat boy. Just watching, idolizing Mike Schmidt and Steve Carlton and all those guys. That's watching the life that they lived. That was the thing that I think that was a little bit of the impetus behind wanting to become a baseball player. It just seemed so fun and cool. And fortunately, I got an opportunity to play, baseball in college, and then try to move my career forward. But soccer was my first love as far as sports are concerned, and I at one point wanted to be a veterinarian, I guess, way back when.
Right, Ruben. As far as being around Dallas Green and Charlie Manuel, how would you describe each manager, World Series winning manager for the Phillies?
Yeah, Dallas obviously had worn a ton of hats in the game as a major league pitcher, someone who then became, a scout involved in farm director, and then he became a president of the Chicago Cubs. I mean, he wore so many hats as a manager, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the things that that was very similar between the two guys. Obviously, physically, they're two big, strong men, right? Two very imposing, strong men. I think Dallas was one of those people who, believe it or not, had and Charlie as well, big, strong men who are kind of hard nosed, but their interior is pretty soft, man. They were very, very thoughtful people. They cared a lot about the people that worked with them. And you can talk to any one of their guys. I know there was a time when some of the players didn't like Dallas too much because he tried to push the right buttons. But at the end of the day, he had a lot of love for those players, and there was a lot of love that came back later on because I think they understood what his process was. I think Dallas was a little worked as a manager in an era when you can get on players a little bit more than you probably can today. And to challenge them a little bit more publicly. Charlie was a great psychologist in a lot of ways. He was he was a good friend, and he was a great person to work with and for. I was one of his, I was one of the guys that he worked a lot with, even though I didn't play very much when he was my hitting coach in Cleveland before he came to Philadelphia, and I came back to Philadelphia. But and he worked very hard with everybody in the staff. But they knew, I think, in each case, each one of those managers really knew that they cared about their players and they cared about their city and really wanted to be winners. And obviously they were.
Can I ask you a story about one time I think the Phillies were slumping in '80, and I think Paul Owens, I think it was on a West Coast trip from what I heard. I heard he came in, there was a buffet for the guys in the clubhouse, and I think they were on a losing streak. And he basically, the rumor was Paul Owens came in there, flipped the whole clubhouse upside down, tore that team into you know what, and that basically might have lit a fire under those guys. Can you vouch for that story?
Well, I will say this. Specifically, I'm not sure if that story is true. What I will say is this, that, these two men, Paul Owens and Dallas Green, were extremely passionate about winning. Right. And they worked a lot of long hours to get there. And I think that, sometimes the emotions get the best of you. Sometimes you feel like those are the things that can motivate a team. And it was pretty obvious that, through the late '70s, they just didn't have that it factor. Right.
Right.
But something happened in 1980 when Dallas took over, that kind of pushed things along, and he and that combination of Paul Owens and Dallas Green, their passion for the game and their passion to win, I think, overrode a lot of things and pushed a lot of guys to go to the next level, and that's what happened.
Can you tell the difference between working with Ed Wade as opposed to Pat Gillick?
Obviously, two very different men, both with a tremendous passion for the game. Ed wore a ton of hats. I mean, he started off as like a PR intern, and so Ed had been in almost every part of the game. Went over and did a lot of arbitration stuff. Worked with a guy named Tal Smith for several years doing arbitration stuff. So he learned about contracts and all those sorts of things, and then worked as an assistant GM. For several years before becoming the GM in Philadelphia. So, he had gotten an opportunity to spend a lot of time in the game and learn the game. He was a player, I think, briefly at Temple University as well, but also a pretty intense guy, and a guy that got an opportunity and did spent a lot of time with guys, the baseball guys, like the Jim Fregosis of the world, and learned John Vukovic's of the world. And I think he learned a lot of things. I think Ed's work ethic was beyond anybody's I could ever been around. He was a great teacher for me and a great leader for me and a great friend. And he deserves a ton of credit for what the kind of success that we had, through those years, 07 through 12. He was not part of the organization at the time necessarily, but he had a huge impact on our success. And as far as Pat Gillick is concerned, I mean, Pat was he had the ability to do so many things. He had a photographic memory, still does. He's very passionate about the game. Again, another guy started off as a scout years ago in many different organizations, wore many hats. And built organizations from the ground up in Toronto, had the success he had in Seattle. I mean, obviously a Hall of Famer. But the great thing about both of these guys, and he's a very close friend and mentor of mine as well, and I'm honored to have worked with them. I think the greatest thing about both those guys that they gave me a lot of autonomy. They gave me a lot of opportunities to fail and a lot of opportunities to have success and to be an integral part of their journeys here in Philadelphia. And to that, I owe them a lot because I got the experience I think that was necessary for me to get that opportunity as a GM.
As far as when you traded for Roy Halladay, were you pursuing that very hard just to go after him? I mean, did it take time behind the scenes?
Well, it took a ton of time. That was the one thing that I talked about for years was, pitching has always been the most important thing to me. And obviously with Roy having been in spring training against us for so many years in Toronto, right there, right next door in Dunedin.
Right.
And Dylan knows a little something about that. But but I just having watched him and having gotten to know him at least from afar, he was the type of competitor that you would love to have in Philadelphia, and in some ways became a little bit of my white whale when I became the GM. It took a little while to get it done, but we tried and finally got it done.
Yep.
I got a question for you, Ruben. With Roy Halladay, we saw in that documentary that ESPN had put out, the Imperfect documentary, we kind of saw that kind of unravel of his career towards the back half of his career, especially with his personal issues that he dealt with. For you as a GM, did you see that at all? And whether it be in his, physique, was there any signs that he was dealing with any personal stuff off the field?
You sometimes would wonder, I guess. For me, it was just I saw with my eyes, I saw a guy that whose body had started to fail him, and a person who did not want to have that happen. And he was doing everything in his power as far as getting himself onto the field and to be able to perform at the level he would typically be performing. But his body just did not let him. I mean, he had a broken back. He had his shoulder was starting to go. He had all types of things going on. And I think he was just trying to, he's the most accountable person I've ever been around. And I think he was just trying to, he felt like it was his obligation to perform at the highest level he could possibly perform at. And unfortunately, his body started to fail him.
In case you guys are just joining us, by the way, we have Ruben Amaro Jr. on with us tonight, along with Kane Kalas. And the funny thing is the overwhelming feeling, Ruben, and I would say to both you gentlemen, again, because Kane, I've been wanting to talk to you for many, many years here. It's the overwhelming feeling that, again, even though you guys may not, again, know us as far as personally, but what you've done and how much it's impacted us. That's why I can't say enough thank you to you guys because of what you guys have done. And so we do appreciate, again, for both of you guys being on. But Kane, I want to go to you here for a second. You started online professionally playing, and if I remember, poker, and then you used the handle, I believe was NASCAR 1949, if I'm correct.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So now, was it a tie-in as far as when it comes to NASCAR? It was just something that you end up, are you a NASCAR fan or just something that just came up out of the blue?
I'm not a huge NASCAR fan. No. So I was sitting there ruminating. I'm like, what name, if somebody sits down against me and he's an amateur player, recreational player, and he loses his money, what name's he going to remember? And I was thinking all capital NASCAR would be a good one. You're probably going to remember that name. So next time, if he wants to come back, try to win his money back, he'll remember who won it from him.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't see it that way. I thought maybe you're a huge NASCAR fan, and so I thought we're going to get into a whole different segment. But also looking at you now, I always butcher his name, so don't hold it against me. Is it the Les Miserables? I always say it wrong.
Les Miserables.
There you go. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for correcting, because again, I always butcher it every single time. How was it being involved with the play?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, so I did that play in high school, and I played Enjolras, the leader of the revolution, which was so much fun. But I'd always wanted to play Javert. And then when I got a chance to do that for a community theater in Manayunk, it was great. I mean, performing has been something I've always loved. I've always enjoyed, and especially a show like Les Miserables. It was just really special.
Now, other than that one, you were also involved, I think, as well. Was it Dr. Jekyll and Hyde? if I remember correctly as well.
Yeah. I was in Jekyll and Hyde as well, and I played Mr. Utterson there, the supporting male role, and that's really a great musical. It's an underrated musical. The music's by Frank Wildhorn, and he's my favorite musical composer, modern musical composer. He did that as well as Scarlet Pimpernel. Both I highly recommend those musicals. I have a question for you though, Angel. I see behind we got a Bears helmet here. So I see the lightning. I'll cut you some slack there because you moved to Tampa. What's going on with the Bears helmet? I mean, what am I looking at here?
All right, so good question.
Come to
Is
the
usually,
right place.
usually Fuji's the one that's usually busting my chops, but so my producer, who's in Studio B in the other room, she is originally from the Chicago area. So she is the Chicago Bears fan, Blackhawks fan, White Sox fan, which majority of the family is the Cubs fan. So her son, actually her and her two sons are White Sox fans. So the Bears that's up there you see behind me here is because of my producer, Debbie, my girlfriend. So she's always loved them and she won't sway away from them as much as Fuji there, the guy up top. He likes to bust my chops every single time, but a Tampa Bay Buccaneers and swears that I have a Tom Brady jersey in my closet. And there's no yeah.
So are you an Eagles fan first then?
Oh yeah, always diehard Eagles fan.
All right.
Okay, that's okay then. We're all right there, Angel.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, diehard Eagles fan. Listen, I'm 4-for-4 as far as back home. It's fun to watch the Lightning down here, and the reason why I have it down here because being part of Tampa. Being able to see 2 championships as well was pretty amazing, especially because it's the first time I've ever seen a boat parade, and that was wild. Even during COVID, it was wild the way it was, and it's fun because it's something that you don't get to experience. So I get to see 2 World Series championships from the Phillies. I get to see finally that massive World Championship from the Eagles that everyone just was dying and waiting for, and we walked from, I always forget the name of the place. But I was with 94 WIP that night with Jimmy Seltzer, John Barchard. There was a bunch of us down on Delaware Avenue, and I don't remember the name of the club. But we walked from there to Center City, and we were actually doing a live broadcast through as we walked down to Center City. And those are memories that were always going to live with me because it's stuff that you had to be in the hometown for anyone to understand. And then talking to people down here in Tampa, to express that feeling, like you guys have no idea. Just imagine waiting 52 years for anything, for a big break in your company, any which way, and you finally win it, and you're just in awe. Like, did it really happen? Because all of us were looking up at the screen like we're waiting for that one Hail Mary toss from Tom Brady, either Gronk or someone else ended up catching it. And so the euphoria that you felt, it's not the same down here. Like the Bucs won last year, the Super Bowl, and it was almost like, yay, that was cute. There wasn't, it's not the same feeling. So now they're 9-3 and they're doing great things down here, but it's the same exact way. People are like, oh yeah, we did a thing last year. You guys were the only team in history to win it in your own backyard. So it's not the same. Now, when you talk about college sports down here, like Florida, the Gators, you name it, anything college, oh my God, this place goes absolutely nuts. But on Sunday, it's like that switching gears. Saturdays, it's all about college football. On Sundays, it's almost kind of like take it or leave it. So as far as in the back wall here, as much as once again, my co-host likes to bust my chops, that's the reason why this stuff is back there. But, Philly's always going to be there for me. I left the city, but the city never leaves me, as a lot of people love to say. So when I'm down here, sometimes I have to remind folks, just because I'm in Florida does not mean that I forget about the city where I come from. So, no, good question, though, because I don't think anyone's asked me yet as far as why the Chicago is behind me.
Well, I saw that when I was because my brother broadcast for the Rays for some time, and the Tampa fans, they were, it's no fans are the same as the Philadelphia fans, right? But the Tampa fans, they didn't really seem to care as much about baseball or football. I do think that the Lightning fans though are pretty intense out there. And I see Lightning fans all over the world. It's That's one of the Tampa sports that and I guess college, as you were saying.
Yeah, the Tampa fans, the Lightning fans, I will say this much. Since being down here now, since 2018, the first year when I was here, you would see more of the away fans than you did the Tampa fans. And then as the season progressed, you can start finally seeing the Tampa Bay fan base coming back. Mm-hmm. The first year of COVID, I was supposed to watch the Flyers down there at Amalie Arena, and then COVID hit. And an hour prior to the game starting is when they called it. Like, nope, the NHL has canceled the game, so I end up missing it. But I will say, after winning, when Tampa won the Stanley Cup, and another another thing I get to enjoy here is that when he talked about the Distant Thunder, the amount of people that showed up at Amalie Arena, which they call Thunder Alley, it was absolutely insane, the amount of people. And then so a little bit further down, to have a little spot called Sparkman Wharf. That place, it's almost like Penn's Landing, not as big as Penn's Landing. So you got to think about, if you look at Penn's Landing, where they do most of the singing in that little atrium. So that's about as big as Sparkman Wharf is. Might be just a little bit bigger than that. But that was completely packed. And for being down there, when they won the Stanley Cup, it just, again, it brings you feelings of how Philly has done it. Now, I will say the Lightning fans do know how to celebrate as far as that championship, because I don't think anybody truly wanted to go home. And Tampa's not like Philly, where Philly stays open all night long. Tampa pretty much shuts down about 11 o'clock for the most part. And so it's a different feeling. But I will say, watching them win 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups down here, yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning fans, by far, your biggest fans in the Tampa Bay area. So, Dylan, I know you had I believe you had another question as well, as we're talking here about Tampa and everything else.
I do. So obviously the Tampa Bay area obviously has had a lot of success the last 2 years. And Ruben, obviously you got to be a part, and even Kane as well. You guys both got to be a part of some success in 2008 and 2009, and even the years prior as well. How important is market success? Like, when it comes to a team, doing well, does that kind of trickle down to the other teams in the area in that market?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I love when I was a GM and when I was in the front office. I mean, I thought it was great that when the Eagles had success, when the Flyers had success, the Union has success, the Sixers had success. I think that creates an environment in the city that is a positive one. I never really felt like we were in competition. I know there's a competition for everybody's entertainment dollar, I guess, monetarily, but as far as the feeling and the pride that hits the city, I forget what, I guess it was right around the 79, 80, 81 years when the Sixers were winning championships, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, and the Phillies won the World Series. I mean, that was a time when you really had a lot of pride in being a Philadelphia fan. And I think people long for those years. I think that those are, that's when I think they feel that the city comes together. I mean, me having grown up in Philadelphia and watching the Flyers go back to back in the early 70s, that was awesome for me as a child. I was like 10, 12 years old. That was great stuff for me. And I'll never forget those moments. And that was one of the big things as a GM. That when I took over, the very first thing I said was, well, my job is to try to bring championships to Philadelphia, as many as I possibly can. And that was always the goal. And what concerns me about our game today is that you don't see that happening in every city, and you kind of wish you did.
Right.
Sean has a question here, Fuji, before you get back to your next question here. He says, I love the fact we won this rotation: Hamels, Myers, Moyer, and Blanton. The fact that the Phillies won a title with that rotation has to boggle the mind. While it's easy to say that the Phillies got lucky, just about every team listed here had to get a pass team that was favored above them. The Phillies' National League Championship Series victory over the Dodgers was that win. So great point.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, listen, it's always about in 2008, it's about once you get into the playoffs, it's really about who makes the baseball roll the best way, right? Who plays the best baseball at that time. And fortunately for us, I talk about it all the time. We were fortunate that the Tampa Bay, I guess it was a Devil Rays then, that they beat the Boston Red Sox, which was kind of an upset. Because I think it put us in a position to have to play a team that was very, very young and maybe not quite ready to win a championship. And I think we took advantage of that as a team, and we had some playoff experience prior. So, I mean, listen, there's a whole lot of things that have to happen in the playoffs. And, fortunately for us, we pushed, Pat Gillick pushed the right buttons, and as did Charlie Manuel, and the guys played. I mean, the guys stepped up when it was time to step up, and they played the way they had to win a World Series.
Yes, they did. Okay, I had a question for you. Getting back to your dad a little bit. I don't know if many people know this, but didn't he do the voice for NFL Films?
He did. He did the voice of NFL Films for many years after John Facenda, and he also did the voice of the Puppy Bowl on Animal Planet,
Oh, really?
which plays during the Super Bowl. That was my dad. Yeah. So it's so funny when we used to travel. You know, obviously in Philadelphia, everybody knew him for the Phillies, but then we travel and people would say, "Man, I really know your voice. You do NFL Films." But whenever it was you know, sometimes there would be other people who would say, "I know you from Animal Planet," and he's like, "What? How did people possibly know?" From the Puppy Bowl, but he got recognized for the Puppy Bowl more than he anticipated.
But then
I got a quick comment, because I got to say this while we're still on. And Kane, I'm not sure if you know this, but when I got traded over to the Phillies in '92, I got an opportunity to play early because Lenny Dykstra got hurt. In our very first game, I hit a home run. Your dad made the call. And I still have the tape. Your dad, after the game, came down after the game and brought the tape to me and handed it to me, saying, "Congratulations. I just thought you would like to have this." They cut the tape for me and they handed it to me. I still have it to this day.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it literally gives me chills. Every once in a while, I'm feeling a little down. I'll throw that tape in there somewhere and listen to it. It is the most awesome call. And it's something I will never, ever forget. And I mean, that's the type of person your dad was. He was, and I got a chance to get to know him better and better and better through my career. I even sat in the back of the plane a few times and had a couple of adult beverages with him. But
who was pitching? Who was pitching?
That was a big moment for me. The left-handed pitcher, I think, was a guy named, I think it was Patterson. We were playing against the Cubs, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, against the Cubbies. Wow.
And I believe it was Dave Patterson. I can't, for
at
whatever reason, I'm
at home or on the road?
It was at home. It was at home.
Yeah.
It was my very first start as a Philadelphia Philly in 1992.
That's an awesome story.
It was an awesome moment for me, and you know, something I will never ever forget. And hopefully my kids and grandkids get a chance to I'll pass it down to them, but because that was quite the moment.
Yeah.
Ruben, as far as being traded with Kyle Abbott for 5-for-1 Von Hayes, I mean, you were bat boy in an '83 World Series, obviously, with Von Hayes on the team. How did you feel when you were coming back, being traded for Von Hayes, coming back to Philly?
I actually was in winter ball at the time, playing in Venezuela, and when I got the call, from Lee Thomas. He got through to my hotel down there and let me know that I'd been traded to them in that trade. And at first I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. That's awesome. And then it kind of dawned on me, oh my God, I'm going to go play for my hometown team. Like, this is kind of nerve wracking. So, but it was, I mean, kind of a dream come true, right? To be able to, you know, come and play at your hometown team. It was just pretty awesome. I kind of stunk that year in '92, but at least it gave me the opportunity to continue my long relationship with the Phillies, and that was pretty spectacular.
As a lot of times Fuji likes to say, to piggyback on that one, what's the feeling like, Ruben, when as a bat boy, right? So you get to experience as a bat boy, then you get to experience it as a player, then you get to experience Citizens Bank Park as assistant general manager and then general manager. What is that feeling like? If you can describe all three of those phases, what's the feeling like to not only just be on the field, then be as a player in front of your hometown fans, and then be in the GM? Like, it's got to be a feeling like no other.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too many people who can tell that story, but I will tell you that I just had a lot of sense of pride, you know, and at first, as a bat boy, you know, you're almost in awe of these like amazing, you know, athletic figures, these icons of baseball, people who ended up being, you know, Hall of Fame type players, being around them and you know, picking up their jocks after the games and stuff like that. That's that's a little humbling. But then coming back and playing for the hometown fans, I think I struggled with it a little bit mentally because I felt like I had to live up to something extra special because my dad played there and had success there. But I think when I came back the second time, I felt a lot more comfortable in my skin. I got traded away to Cleveland, played there for a couple of years. It was a great 2 years. But I think just maturing in the game and being able to come back and play again in 96 through 98, that was real special for me because I started to feel like a little bit more comfortable being at home and being able to deal with some of the pressures of that. We didn't have great teams necessarily, but certainly enjoyed my time there. And then obviously getting a chance to, for Ed Wade and Dave Montgomery to have the confidence in me to be able to join them in the front office. I mean, again, not too many people get that opportunity, and I have a lot of people to thank and a lot of people to be grateful for getting that opportunity. I guess becoming the GM, I felt a whole lot of responsibility. That was kind of nerve-wracking for me as well. But I felt I was ready at the time. I kind of paid my dues for 10 years as an assistant GM and worked under some really phenomenal human beings and executives in Ed Wade and Pat Gillick, as we talked about before, and felt I was ready to do it. And for a while, I guess I did a pretty good job. And then after that, not so good, huh?
Right. No, but listen, it happens to me. Things happen in life. Everything in life happens for a reason. Every little thing, no matter which way you look at it. And again, if you appreciate the game like most people do, and I know Major League Baseball is trying to find a way to speed up the game. I love it just the way it is. I mean, you already know you're going to be in there for 3 hours and 15 minutes on a good day. If you get bonus baseball, it's even better, especially when you go the longer innings. I mean, Lord knows in Philly, we had one a long night. But the great thing is, as a fan, you appreciate it because there's times when, especially when spring training comes around, you get that kid feeling all over again, and you can just feel it. I mean, it's great. It's all the same feelings that you get when you played, whether you played stickball like we did in Philly, or you played baseball. No matter what it was, it's that great feeling. So for me, kind of the combination is watching the Sandlot just before spring training starts because it's just all those good feelings. So, and again, I think there's not enough thank yous, as I told you before, for what you did for the city because it takes a lot. It takes a lot for someone to know what they have to do, their accomplishments and their failures. It seems that way, but I think you held so much grace when it came to it because it could have went, like I said, a completely different manner, but you did the best you could with this organization, and it will never, ever not be forgotten because a lot of great people will always remember what you did. And that's why I kind of flashed that picture a little bit earlier. Was the one here, and like I said, I was out in center field watching your face that day, your reaction, just all the emotions. You can just tell. I mean, we just won the World Series the year before, and then watching you doing it as a general manager, I mean, it's to this day I can relive it just like it was yesterday. So again, thank you so much for what you did.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Angel. It was a great time. It was a great era in our organization, and I was glad to be part of it.
Thank you for breaking that 25-year drought.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Not winning anything.
But since we're talking about it, and I because it has to be played. It's been a while since the last time we did it, but just to hear Harry's voice with Kane being here tonight, it's got to be played. So I want to share with everyone the call that would be just forever etched in stone. So hopefully this works out just as planned here.
Rally towels are being waved. Brad Lidge stretches. The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball. Brad Lidge does it again and stays perfect for the 2008 season. 48 for 48 in save opportunities. And let the city celebrate. Don't let the 48-hour wait diminish the euphoria of this moment and the celebration. And it has been 28 years since the Phillies have enjoyed a world championship. 25 years in this city when a team is enjoying a world championship, and the fans are ready to celebrate. What a night. Phil's winning 4-3. As Brad Lidge gets the job done once again.
Yeah, it's incredible, and you can feel it just like if it happened yesterday. I'm telling you, that feeling. Even I watched it prior to the show tonight, and then it's not like you try and get teared up or anything else. But again, hearing Kane, your dad, that call, that year, the way things went, and there were so many things going on in the city of Philadelphia as they're trying to make that turn from things just going bad in the city to getting better. It's just that euphoric feeling in 2008. It's just, I stayed up all night, and I was working with Verizon at the time in Maryland. I actually was at the ballpark, celebrated, went down to Modell's, grabbed the hat and t-shirt, because when I went to work that morning, I just went straight shot down to DC because that's where I was working with Verizon at the time, just so everybody could see who ended up winning the World Series that night. So it's just, there's things and memories you'll never forget. And Kane, I can't tell you, your dad, it was the calls that he made throughout the years, the rubber tree plant. I mean, it's just, I could go on for days just the way your dad was, and the same way with you, Ruben.
Well, I mean, what made that a great call is that my dad was so wrapped up in the game. You know, he'd waited for so long himself, and so that was just raw emotion you heard from him there, and that's what he actually felt, right? I mean, he was just so elated, so excited for the Phillies to be in that position, having waited so long. I mean, I could tell you, he cared about the Phillies' success as much as any Philadelphia fan. And when you have that, when you're listening to that, a broadcaster call a game that way, right? Merrill's another one who you could just hear. He cares about how the Eagles do when you're listening to Merrill Reese on Sunday, right? And that just, especially in Philadelphia, right? That just really makes it relatable to the fans and wonderful to listen to.
Just some of the calls your dad made. Mike Schmidt's 500th homer in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, my favorite call of my father's was actually Jim Thomey's 400th home run. You can find that on YouTube. I think he does a great job there. And then, of course, there's the Chase Utley, you are the man, call on an unbelievable play where Chase Utley somehow makes it home. It's just really amazing stuff.
Phenomenal.
Ruben, because we didn't get a chance to obviously see you on camera at the time when it had happened. And we saw Wheels obviously throwing his fist back and forth because he was just as pumped as everyone else because it's been so long since 1980 when it won. When you saw that strike thrown, Brad Lidge just closing out for the season, where were you at the time in the ballpark? And then what was your first gut reaction?
Well, I sit the way we set up in the box up there in the executive box. Pat Gillick sat behind me. There was a 2-level box. I sat in the left corner in the front. Pat left corner in the back, and then Dallas Green. A couple people to my right. Mike Gondo, who was our director of professional scouting, on my right. I think Mike Arbuckle was back there with Pat on his right. I mean, it's a culmination. There's so much hard work that's put into everything that happens. I had been through the highs and the lows, and it's just, emotion just flying. I'm not afraid to say I was crying, happy tears, and just giving hugs to the guys in the booth there, and obviously to Pat, etc. But it was a kind of a surreal moment. You just, you have your own little clubhouse right there as far as an office is concerned. You feel like there's a brotherhood and a brotherhood there. And certainly that was a very, very special moment for all of us. And I thought it was wonderful that when, Pat Gillick took the stage, he gave Ed Wade a lot of props for that because he was one of the guys that kind of set the tone and brought a lot of the talent to that team that ended up winning that World Series. And so, just a real emotional moment. I mean, you see the face on Chooch there after the pitch running out there.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can describe that moment when you're on a team that wins. And I've been unfortunate to have been part of like 6 or 7 different teams as winning the College World Series and some other things. It's just indescribable. You just cannot. It's very, very difficult for you to be able to duplicate that feeling, and it happens as much as a player as it does as a person in the front office.
Well, just to be fortunate as a game day employee, I was working in 101 right by the bullpen. And just to be there with the fans to see that Phillies win the World Series and that 25-year drought just going away, all the Billy Penn rumors, it was amazing. We went up to the break room party, had a few, and I don't think I got out of there. I didn't get home until about 4 a.m. I went to work. Went to the stadium for the parade. It was hardly any sleep, but the emotions were just flying high. It was amazing. Besides the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, it was just the most phenomenal feeling just to be a part of that, Ruben and Kane.
Man, I'm telling you, it's the most amazing feeling you ever feel. I don't care who says what. And I mean, it's when you're a diehard fan, you stick with your team no matter what, and no matter how bad it is. Even we're seeing the Flyers going through it at the moment, let go of their manager, their coach, and then they got rid of the assistant coach as well. They didn't fare too well for them last night, but they end up, they lost only by 2 goals, unlike the night before when they lost 7-1 to Tampa. But they're going through it in the same way with the Eagles as they're trying to rebuild, and now coming in with Nick Sirianni, a bunch of new coaches, and so and I guess. Dylan, I know, had a question in relation as far as when it comes to the GMs. And so before we let you guys go, I want Dylan to ask this question because I know he was asking prior to everyone coming on as far as the difference between 2 teams and the GM. So Dylan, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so I guess my question here with the 2 team situation is, obviously, I guess you would say, let me try and word this properly here for you guys. So the question I have for you guys is going to be with the 2 teams and the GM is, like, what's the relationship like between like a GM of like one sport and you would say a GM of like another sport? Like what's kind of that relationship like between like GMs with the different teams in the city? How does that kind of work with you guys?
Well, for me, when I was a GM, there's a little bit of a brotherhood going on there too. When I was a GM in Philadelphia, became pretty good friends with Howie Roseman, who is now back in that seat for the Eagles. Pretty good friends with Paul Holmgren now. Actually, very, very good friends. He's like my almost daily golf partner, and we forged a friendship. Remember just trying to get together with some of these guys. Ron Hextall, I got to know a little bit as well. Billy King as well. I think that there's a little bit of a brotherhood in that we all kind of go through this same sort of trials and tribulations and difficulties and pressures. Philadelphia is a tough place to work at times, but it's also really gratifying, and I would not know where else to work, to be honest with you, because if I didn't have that kind of heat, kind of pressure, I think that I'd probably get complacent. But I did like to have a relationship with those guys, and I still feel like there's some kind of brotherhood because you kind of go through the same sort of issues that that all the other GMs go through.
Right. Well, one last question I have here for Kane, because I know your brother, as you stated before, he was making the calls for the Tampa Bay Rays. I believe now he's still with the Houston Astros.
He's with the Houston Astros. He went there the year they won the World Series, and I actually just visited Todd out in Houston. He's loving doing the play-by-play for the Houston Astros. And Angel, you mentioned at one point the Rubber Tree Plant. That, of course, my dad was known for singing High Hopes when the Phillies went, deep when they made it to the playoffs and when they won that next game. Shameless plug here. I'm working on an album titled High Hopes, a music album dedicated dedicated to Dad. So I've been working on it for a while. It's, I got a lot of projects going on, but this one, it'll be finished within the next 6 months to 1 year. Every single song on the album had special meaning to my father, and we use all local Philadelphia talent, musicians, the recording studio. So I travel back to Philadelphia to work on that album. It's a lot of great American songbook stuff like Frank Sinatra, stuff like that, stuff that was really special to my father. So that'll be upcoming.
That is awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I've gotten a chance to be in a piano bar or two with your dad, and it was a joy to listen to him and tickle the ivories and sing a few songs. But I'm looking forward to that. I mean, listen, your dad has got to be awfully proud. I mean, obviously you and Todd and listen, Kane's like the ultimate Renaissance man. The man's professional gambler. He's an actor. He's a singer. I mean, he's the Renaissance man. I love it, man. And your dad would be awfully proud, Kane. You've grown into I've known you since you were a toddler, and to see what you've done with your life and the success that you've had, man, it's been pretty awesome.
Thanks, Ruben. I appreciate that.
Kane, aren't you an investor now? From what I read, doing some research.
About 2 years ago, I launched a hedge fund, Crystal Oak Capital. So now my full-time gig is managing money and not getting very much sleep. But yeah, so I still enjoy playing poker. I did that for 10 years, and I'll still go out and play the World Series when I can. But yeah, my full-time thing is managing money.
I remember when your brother started with Prism.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
With your dad and.
Sean, or Ruben, Sean had one last comment here. He said, for you, what was the one trade you wish you can take back and not pull a trigger on if you have one?
Well, I think everybody talks about the Cliff Lee trade, having traded him for after getting Roy Halladay. They were kind of combined, those two trades. But the reality of it was that if I could take it back, I'd love to be able to do that one.
It's okay. And that happens. And by the way, again, the same way too, because as your heritage, I believe, if I remember correctly, your mom was Russian Jewish.
Yes, she is.
And then your dad was Mexican Cuban, correct?
That's correct. Also Catholic. So I got the full Monty.
Yeah. But
I got it all covered.
It's but it's impressive though, because you got to think about it. Today we know that a lot of the kids today, they're trying to come up, and become unique, be themselves. But as far as when it comes to, and the word minority can be thrown around different ways, but it's nice to see that someone with different ethnicities that can actually come through and make something of themselves and then show their family, like as hard as your dad worked, but for you to show your girls and your family what can be done and what you can accomplish as long as you believe yourself. So again, thank you. Just from the heritage side, thank you for even just making it through and making everyone proud.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I take a lot of pride in both the fact that I'm, half Jewish and Catholic and have all those different diverse heritages. My dad went through a lot as a young player through the minor leagues and a lot of difficulty through it. And, he helped pave the way for a lot of others. And, I take a lot of pride in that as well.
Listen, we appreciate it. And again, thanks. Thank you, Kane, to you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I'm always looking at your stuff on Instagram. So it's like the entertaining roles that keep on going. So thank you for what you share on Instagram. Same way with you, Ruben, on Twitter. And I followed you for years. And then the 1 year I was kind of like, do I unfollow him and then bring him back? I don't know, I'll stay there. But again, because, you go through the emotions, but thank God what you did for the Phillies. And again, for all the fans. And we appreciate it. Thank you for coming on tonight. And we're 2 episodes away from episode 100. So having both of you guys on today, it's become like an early Christmas present for us. One is because we're just too shy away from episode 100. So it's a blessing to have both of you guys on. It's like looking at episode 99 and 100. So we're blessed with having you guys on, and we appreciate it. The same way, the greatest gift that I have is right in the other room is my producer, Debbie. So that's my Chicago tie-in, but thanks to her, it's like Christmas every day, and she supports me in everything that we do here. So thanks you guys for coming on. I can't thank you enough, both of you, for what you've done for us as fans and in the community of Philadelphia. Thank you so much.
I also like to thank both of you guys coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to both of you. been able to share this moment.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on, guys. And Angel, Mike told me before the show, next program he wants to do the anthem to start it off.
Thank you for having me, guys. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. It was great going back down memory lane. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dylan, thanks for those questions too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks for everyone else. We will see everyone on Thursday night at 8 o'clock, possibly here with Andy Kalu on Thursday. We're still waiting for confirmation as I end up speaking to him today. So we'll have hopefully Andy Kalu on Thursday. So we'll see everyone on Thursday night, of course, here, Facebook, Redline Banner, and on Instagram. So thank you to my sponsors, Tampa Joe's. Thank you to Goose's Monte Cristo and for LGDirect.net. With that being said, hopefully everyone enjoyed here, episode 98. We will see you all on Thursday night.